What is up, my dude? My name is Ruthie and welcome back to my channel. So since 2020 is coming to a close, I thought it would be a good idea to share with you 20 albums that helped me get through 2020. So even though 2020 wasn't like we expected it to be, the music that was released this year was incredible. So some of these artists and albums you may have heard of, some of them you may have not, but it's all good. I just want to share with you a tidbit of what I have bumping on my playlists right now. I do listen to a lot of music, and even on my Spotify Wrapped, it says that I discovered 563 new artists this year, which is insane, but I love it. I love it, I love it, I love it. I love consuming new music. I love learning about new artists. It is great. I love it, I love it, I love it. So I was thinking to myself, how do I actually rank these albums from 1 to 20? So all of these are pretty wide on the genre spectrum, so I rank them just by their release date, starting in January 2020. I'll be giving you the artist name and the album title. I wish I can go into detail with all of the songs, but if I did, we would be here forever, so I'll just give you the Spark Notes version. The first album that was released this year that helped me get through 2020 was an album called 24 by Jonathan Ogden. And if you follow me on Instagram, you've probably seen or heard this name once or twice. So Jonathan Ogden is a musician and producer from England. 24 album was a beat tape, and it was every song on this album, it was just amazing. I loved it. I love this whole album. At least 12 of the 24 songs on this album were in my top 100 songs for 2020. So this album was really good. This album basically takes you on a journey through each hour of the day, starting at 7 a.m. And some of my favorite tracks from that album, well, honestly, all of them are really great, but the ones that stand out to me mostly are 1 p.m., 7 p.m., and 1 a.m. Those are probably my top 3. So the second album is called Carried, and that is by Isla Vista Worship. They're an indie pop band from California. I think my favorite track on Carried is probably the first one called Close to Me. Just the build into the climax, it just feels so good. And the lyrics are great. Everything is just good. It's just good. Just listen to it, okay? The next album is called The Antidote, and that is by a band called Lion of Judah, who are also from England. They are an indie pop band, and I can hear a little bit of funk. I love it, and I love their lyrics and their intention with each song. My favorite track on the Antidote album was Joy, because it just talks about having joy in every circumstance, which is so important, especially for this year and leading on into the next one as well. The next album that helped me get through 2020 was called Choose to Worship by Rend Collective, and they are a band from Northern Ireland, so a lot of Irish folk has an influence on their music, and they are just so fun to just listen to. And I remember going to a few of their I think 2 of their concerts. They were amazing, just so full of energy and joy, and they're just passionate about what they do. And yeah, the Choose to Worship album was great. I think my favorite song on that album was called Defiant, and it just talks about declaring God's goodness in every area of our life, and the highs and the lows. Those are part of the lyrics, so yeah. The next album is called Heathen by Gawvi. Okay, Gawvi has been in my top 5 artists for 2020, 2019, and I'm not even sure if he was on it for 2018, but basically I listened to him a lot. This album is more hip-hop rap, and there's a bit of pop in there, and he is just a great artist and producer. Love this guy's work. And I think at least half of this album was actually on my top 100 playlist for Spotify as well. Like, they're just great. He's just great, okay? Like, the music is just awesome. The next album is called Keeper of Days by Guerra. I hope I said that right. I'm not too sure, so sorry if I said that incorrectly. So I actually first heard about him when he was with Vertical Worship, and the couple songs that he did on the Rock Won't Move album. Great album, BT Dubs. What really stood out to me was his guitar playing and how his songs were, of course, different from the rest of that album, but it just all integrated so beautifully. It was just the Rock Won't Move album. That was good. That was a very good album. He says that one of his musical influences is Bob Dylan, and when you listen to the album, you can definitely hear a bit of Bob Dylan's influence on there. So this is more of an acoustic folk album with very smooth vocals, and his guitar work is superb. My favorite track on that album is called Citizens, and I think it's my favorite track because it goes between a 5/4 time signature and a 4/4 time signature, and it just keeps the listener intrigued. I love that. The next album that helped me get through 2020 is called Exit by Wande, and I first heard about Wande last year when Reach Records announced that they were finally having their first female rapper on board, and I was so excited when I heard about this. And let me tell you, she did not disappoint. She's been pumping out music and I am eating it up. She is so good. Oh my gosh, one day I want to meet her. Like, that is one of the goals. So the next album is called Portraits, and that's by an artist called CalledOut Music. And I believe I found him on my Discover Weekly playlist, and that is a great way to discover new music, guys. So if you're trying to look for new music, go to your Discovery Weekly playlist and search there. So this album is like gospel pop with a little bit of Afro beats in there, which you know I love, okay? My favorite song from Portraits was Warm Embrace, because it definitely has that Afro beats vibe to it, and that is just an overall great song. The next album is called Let Yourself Be Loved by Laity. I'm not sure. I'm gonna say Laity and go from there, yeah. So I would describe this album as more indie, a bit of pop. It's more on the chill side. It has a lo-fi vibe to it as well, so I really love that. My favorite song from that album is probably Falling Up. I don't know, it's hard to just pick one song from these albums, but again, if I went into detail with each and every one of these albums and songs, we would be here forever. But it's all good. The next album that helped me get through 2020 is called Casanova by Phaino, and he is a hip-hop artist from Toronto. Let's go! My favorite song off of the Casanova album was probably Never Been the Same. It's a bop, okay? It's just a bop. It's so good. The next album is called It's Not What It Looks Like by Via Music, and they are a band from California. And I think my favorite song off of that album was probably Chosen, and I think that was one of the singles they chose. They chose to put out before the whole album release. But the whole album is great. I loved it as well. The next album is called California by Aaron Bucks. The way Aaron Bucks describes his music is laid back, positive, and full of life, and I couldn't have described it better. And he also says he's not quite pop, not quite folk, but he's definitely a good blend of the two, which I love. The next album is called Love Secrets B-Sides. That sounds weird. It's like not B-sides. I'm just gonna put it right here so you understand what I'm talking about. Like not B-sides, but like B-sides. Okay, cool. So that is by John Mark Pantana, and he has been, wow, I cannot believe I've never heard of this guy before this year or late last year. I don't know. I'm like, where have I been? This guy is amazing. His vocals are just so unique, and I just, he's just amazing. I don't know, like, I feel like everyone is amazing on this list, but like, John Mark Pantana, like, his music has a special place in my heart for sure. The whole album is just great, and I can't believe I found him so late. John, if you're watching this, I'm sorry. I am a huge fan now. That's all that matters. My favorite track on that album is called Abba, and Abba is Aramaic for father, and that song features Jonathan Ogden, of course, because I'm a huge fan. And Jonathan did a remix, and this version, it's just so intimate, and it just talks about how we belong to God, and it's just, They're just amazing musicians and artists. Like, it just, sometimes you just want to like just sit back and close your eyes and listen, and it's just like a warm hug on a cold day, or like, you know, when you just drink like hot coffee or hot chocolate and you just feel it go down your esophagus and it just warms your insides. That's what John Mark Pantana does, okay? Huge fan. Wait, I also, it's between ABBA and Made for Jesus. I don't know, it's hard. It's hard to just pick one, but I really love both songs. The next album is called Vintage by Shane and Shane. If you were a church kid and listened to this album, you probably recognize almost all of these songs. These were the bops in church, okay? The album was very nostalgic. Definitely took me back 15, 20 years. Like, wow. It was great, and they are such an amazing duo. Their harmonies are awesome, and just the spin they took on these songs. Like, of course they kept it classic, but like, you know, they had their own spin on it, which was great. The next album was called Summer Mixtape, and that was by Isaac Whedon. I love this album for multiple reasons. One of them being that the tracks weren't all in English. I think one of them was in Spanish, and I believe one of them was in French, if I'm not mistaken, but it just wasn't English, so it was kind of like a great picture of just the diversity in the kingdom of God, and it was great. I listened to this album so many times because it really did give you all the summer feels. My favorite song off of that album was I'm at Peace When the World Isn't, and that is kind of just like a reflection of 2020. Like, I am at peace when this world is not, because Jesus is my peace. Nothing and no one can give me the peace that Jesus does. So when I have God's peace, I am at peace when the world isn't. The next album that helped me get through 2020 was called Holy Water by We the Kingdom. And I first found the artist when they popped up on my Discovery Weekly playlist, and I gave the album a listen, and it did not disappoint. My favorite songs on that album are probably Cages and Holy Water. Those are like the two, but of course the whole album was great. And I love listening to albums from top to bottom, so usually when people put out singles, I listen to them. If I like the single, I'll probably give the album a shot. If I'm not a fan of the single, may not give it a shot. The next album that made 2020 was called Restoration by Lecrae, and if you don't know who Lecrae is, you're probably living under a rock, and it's all good, I forgive you. This album came out in August, I believe, and I've listened to this album so many times. Again, like half of these songs were on my top 100 songs of 2020, so this album was just, it was just so good, so good. I need to get a thesaurus because I just keep saying so good, but like, if you have any other suggestions of how to say so good, let me know in the comments below. Some songs that stood out to me on that album, it's hard because I really listened to this album top to bottom repeatedly, but some songs that did stand out were Wheels Up, Sunday Morning, and Deep End. I think those were like my top three. I don't know, it's hard to do top three because, again, I listened to this album on repeat. This album was just, it did restore me, okay? It really did. Amazing. If you like hip hop and rap, listen to this album. Whoa. Excuse me. The next album that helped me get through 2020 was called The Joy of Being by Citizens. They are very versatile in their music, so it's hard to just kind of put them in like a genre. But my favorite song on that album was Altogether Good. That was a good song. It just talks about how God He's here and He is love and He is altogether good. Another one that stood out to me on that album was Only Jesus Christ. Yeah, that song was definitely a bop. I hope this video isn't like an hour long. The second last album that I'm going to be talking about is called God's Heart Explodes by Grimble, and I actually found her through Rivers and Robots when she was featured on one of their songs on the Dreams album. I hope I got that right. I love the timbre of her voice, and I was very interested in seeing if she had any other music out. And of course, to my satisfaction, she had music out. I listened to it, and her voice is it just feels like a hug. And I feel like we just need more hugs in 2020, even though we have to be physically distant. This album is also very versatile in genre, so it goes from like soul and R&B to pop to, you know, your classic worship. And this album is it's just great. Like, if you have time, just listen to this album, and just all these albums. All these albums are great. A couple songs that stood out to me on this album were Nothing Can Separate, which featured Mad Redman, and Goliath, which featured Mitch Blanc. Okay, guys, if you don't listen to this album, just listen to those two songs, and then you'll probably just listen to the whole album after that. You know what I mean? So we made it to the last album. I can't believe we went through 19 albums already, and even just talking about it now and thinking it through, like, there were actually so many more albums that I wish I could have put, but there's just so many good albums, so much good music out there. If you're a musician or artist, just keep putting out the music because it's just great. I am a music consumer for sure, so I love just listening to music when I'm at work or when I'm doing chores or just driving around. Love music, just keep putting it out there. Put your music out there, guys, okay? Please. I am here to listen. We are here to listen. The last album for this video was called Camp Lukewarm by Lord's Child and Montel Fish. Okay, guys, this album was incredible. I love albums that you can listen to from the beginning to end and they just take you on a journey. Like, those are the best albums, guys, and those were all of these albums as well. The two songs that stood out to me on this album were Peter and Heaven. Peter was one of Jesus' disciples, and Montel was just talking about how sometimes he feels like Peter, and I thought that was a good perspective, and sometimes I do feel like Peter as well. And Heaven is just a bop. Like, guys, just open another tab and just type in Heaven, and it's just a bop, guys. Like, you have to trust me on this. It is a bop. So yeah, those were the 20 albums that helped me get through 2020. Of course, there were a lot of other albums that helped me get through 2020. Special mentions to Tasha Cobb's new album and Carrie Job's new album, and of course, Elevation's new album. Those three just didn't make the list because they were already obvious, you know? Like, why put it on the list when it's already obvious? The Christian music spectrum is huge. It's not just CCM, even though I love CCM myself. There are so many other genres and artists in this Christian music field. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up and let me know down in the comments below what albums or artists that you listened to or you discovered in 2020. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and also ring the bell so you're notified every time I upload a video. Have a good one, guys.